It was just after midnight when Jennifer unlocked the door to her modest suburban home. The chilly night air followed her inside as she hung her coat and set her keys on the counter. Her Doberman, Max, usually greeted her with boundless energy, but tonight the house was eerily quiet. "Max?" Jennifer called, her voice echoing slightly in the silence. Normally, she would hear the familiar patter of paws racing toward her, but tonight there was nothing. Her heart skipped a beat. Worried, she stepped into the living room, and that's when she saw him. Max was sitting awkwardly in the middle of the floor, his body tense, his chest heaving. His large black eyes met hers, wide and fearful. His mouth was open, and he was making horrible gagging sounds, like he was struggling to breathe. "Oh my God, Max!" Jennifer rushed to his side, panic rising in her throat. The dog's strong, muscular body shook violently as he continued to retch, foam building at the sides of his mouth. She placed her hands on his muzzle, trying to pry it open, hoping to dislodge whatever was causing the blockage. "Come on, boy. Hang in there," she whispered, trying to stay calm, but fear had already settled deep into her bones. Max was choking, and she had no idea what to do. Without wasting another second, Jennifer grabbed her phone and dialed the vet's emergency number with shaking fingers. The line rang for what felt like an eternity before a voice finally answered. "This is Dr. Spencer. It's my dog. He's choking. I don't know what on, but he can't breathe. Please help me." "Calm down," the vet said in a steady voice. "Bring him in immediately. We'll be ready for him." Jennifer didn't wait. She scooped Max's large, convulsing body into her arms as best she could and staggered to the car, her adrenaline giving her strength. The dog continued to cough and sputter, his eyes filled with panic as he thrashed weakly. "Stay with me, Max," Jennifer pleaded as she sped toward the veterinary clinic, ignoring red lights and stop signs. Every second felt like it dragged on forever, her mind racing with terrible thoughts. What if she was too late? What if Max didn't make it? She pulled up to the clinic, tires screeching. A vet tech was already waiting outside, and together they rushed Max into the examination room. "He's been choking for the last 10 minutes, Jennifer explained breathlessly, her eyes wide with fear. Dr. Spencer immediately went to work, carefully opening Max's mouth and shining a light inside. Jennifer watched helplessly, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't lose Max. He was all she had. After what seemed like an eternity, the vet's face changed from concern to shock. "There's something lodged deep in his throat, but this isn't food," Dr. Spencer murmured, his brow furrowing as he pulled on his gloves. "What do you mean?" Jennifer asked, dread creeping into her voice. Dr. Spencer didn't answer right away. With delicate precision, he reached inside Max's mouth and began to pull something out. Inch by inch, a long, fleshy object emerged. Jennifer gasped, her blood running cold as the realization hit her. Max hadn't been choking on food. The vet held up what appeared to be a human finger. Jennifer staggered back, her eyes locked on the severed finger in Dr. Spencer's hand. Her mind refused to process what she was seeing. A human finger. Cold. Pale. A jagged nail still attached. What is that?" she whispered, her voice trembling as her gaze darted between the finger and Max, who was now breathing more easily but still shaking. The vet looked just as stunned. "It's a finger. A human finger," Dr. Spencer repeated, as though saying it would make sense. Max must have bitten it off, but how? Where? Jennifer felt a wave of nausea crash over her. She suddenly felt dizzy, the room spinning around her. How is that even possible? Her voice cracked with fear. Someone broke into my house? Dr. Spencer set the finger down on a tray, his face pale. "You should call the police. This isn't something we can ignore. If Max was defending your home, we need to figure out what happened." Jennifer stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing. Could someone still be inside her house? Was that person hurt, or worse, dangerous? The thought sent a jolt of panic through her. But she knew she couldn't leave Max here, not after everything he had been through. "I'll call them now," Jennifer said, fumbling for her phone, her hands trembling so much she could barely hold it steady. She dialed 911 and reported the bizarre situation, her voice cracking as she explained what the vet had found. The dispatcher's voice remained calm, but the urgency was unmistakable. "Stay where you are, ma'am. Officers are being dispatched to your house right now. Don't return home until the scene is cleared." Jennifer agreed, But as soon as she hung up, a gnawing fear consumed her. Was there more than one intruder? Was someone still in her house, bleeding or worse? She glanced at Max, now lying quietly on the floor, his breathing returning to normal. She didn't want to leave him, but something was pulling her back home. An overwhelming need to know what had really happened inside her house. 20 minutes later, Jennifer stood outside her home, surrounded by flashing police lights. The officers had arrived, their expressions serious as they approached the house with caution. She clutched Max's leash tightly, her heart pounding against her ribs. The vet had offered to keep him at the clinic, but Jennifer insisted on bringing him back with her. After all, Max had likely saved her life. The lead officer, Detective Matthews, approached her. "Ma'am, we'll do a thorough sweep of the house. Stay here while we go inside. We'll let you know when it's clear." Jennifer nodded, wrapping her arms around herself as the officers entered the house with their flashlights and guns drawn. Her pulse quickened with each passing second. She stood on the edge of the driveway, scanning the windows of her home, imagining the worst. After what felt like an eternity, Detective Matthews emerged, his face grim. "We found something," he said. Jennifer's stomach lurched. "What is it?" "There's blood. Quite a bit of it. In the hallway, leading to your bedroom," Matthews explained. "No signs of forced entry, but from the looks of it, whoever was in there was seriously injured." Jennifer's throat went dry. "Do you think they're still inside?" "We're not sure. No one's in there now, but the trail of blood stops in your bedroom." He paused, glancing at Max. "Your dog. He might have scared them off before they could finish whatever they were doing." Jennifer felt a wave of nausea. She couldn't shake the image of the severed finger in Max's mouth. But why the finger? She could barely say it. Matthews exchanged a look with one of the other officers. "We're going to need more time to investigate this. Whoever it was might have been a burglar, but this is beyond that. We need to understand what they were after, and if they'll come back." Jennifer spent the night in a nearby hotel, unable to shake the terror that had gripped her. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events over and over. Who had been in her house? Why had Max attacked them? And why had they been so intent on getting into her bedroom? She tried to sleep, but every sound outside the window jolted her awake, her mind spinning with fear. Early the next morning, she returned to the house under the escort of Detective Matthews. The place was still in chaos. Blood smeared the hallway carpet, and Max sniffed nervously at the spot where the confrontation had likely taken place. "We're still processing the scene," Matthews said as Jennifer glanced at the red stains on the floor. "There's more than just a missing finger. Whoever this was, they left a mess behind." Jennifer's heart sank as she walked further into the house, but something else caught her eye, her bedroom window, slightly ajar. She hadn't noticed it before, but now it seemed glaringly obvious. "Did they come through here?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Matthews nodded. "We believe so. The blood trail starts near the window, then leads out. But there's more. We found traces of blood leading to your closet, like someone was rummaging through it." Jennifer's blood ran cold. Her closet? What could they have possibly wanted from there? I don't understand," she whispered, but a chilling thought gnawed at her. There was something hidden in that closet, something she had hoped no one would ever find. That evening, after the police left, Jennifer sat in the quiet of her house, alone with her thoughts. The finger. The blood. The closet. Her past. It all swirled together in a disjointed fog of terror. She had moved into this house to start fresh, to bury the parts of her life she wished to forget. But now it seemed like her past had clawed its way back, literally tearing through her home, leaving behind nothing but fear and unanswered questions. She walked over to her closet, the one Detective Matthews had mentioned. The door creaked open, revealing nothing out of the ordinary at first. But behind the row of clothes, hidden in the back, was a small safe, something she hadn't touched in years. Her hands shook as she unlocked it, dread filling her as she opened it. Inside were only a few items: an old photograph, a worn-out journal, and a small velvet pouch. Her heart raced as she opened the pouch, revealing a set of keys that she hadn't used in a decade. Jennifer sat down on the edge of her bed, her mind reeling. The keys in her hand were a connection to a part of her life she had hoped to leave behind forever. They were for a storage unit, one she had rented years ago in another city. It was where she had hidden the remnants of her troubled past, the secrets she thought she had buried for good. Max lay at her feet, sensing her distress. His large head rested on her lap as she absent-mindedly stroked his fur. She thought back to the intruder. Why had they been in her house? Why had they gone straight for her closet? The finger, the blood, the panic, it all pointed to one thing. Someone knew about the storage unit, and they wanted whatever was inside. Her phone buzzed, startling her. It was Detective Matthews. "We've traced the blood from your house," he said. "It leads to an abandoned building nearby. Looks like someone's been hiding out there, but we haven't caught them yet." Jennifer's blood ran cold. "Do you think they'll come back?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "We don't know for sure. But if they do, I need you to be ready. Keep your doors locked, and be careful." Jennifer spent the next few days on high alert. Every creak, every shadow sent her heart racing. She had moved to this quiet neighborhood to escape her past, but it seemed her past had followed her more violently than she could have imagined. Max never left her side, his protective nature heightened after the incident. He growled at the slightest noise, his ears always perked, ready for anything. But the fear gnawing at Jennifer wasn't just about the intruder or the finger Max had found. It was about what lay inside that storage unit. She had to go there. There was no other option. She needed to find out what the intruder had been after before they returned. Grabbing the old keys, she decided to make the drive. The storage unit was a few hours away, but the need for answers outweighed the fear that had kept her paralyzed. The drive was nerve-wracking. Every mile brought Jennifer closer to a past she had tried so hard to forget. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed, her eyes constantly flicking to the rearview mirror. Max lay in the passenger seat, calm but watchful. As she pulled into the storage facility, memories flooded her. The metal door to Unit 43 stood before her like a tombstone, marking the burial ground of her darkest secrets. With trembling hands, she inserted the key, feeling the familiar click as the lock disengaged. She pushed open the door, revealing the dark, cold interior. The smell of dust and time filled the air as she stepped inside. The contents were simple: boxes of old papers, photographs, and one large, heavy chest in the back. That chest held the secrets she had buried. Secrets someone had now come looking for. Jennifer approached the chest slowly, her heart pounding in her ears. As she opened the lid, her breath caught in her throat. Inside was something she hadn't seen in years: bundles of cash, a gun, and a leather-bound notebook. Her past lay bare. Jennifer's hands shook as she flipped through the pages of the notebook. It was a detailed account of her old life, a life she had run from. The deals, the dangerous people she had worked with, the threats. It all came rushing back, as vivid as if it had happened yesterday. But what struck her most was the list of names. People who had wanted her dead. People who would kill to get what was inside that chest. One name stood out, circled in red: Daniel Harper. Jennifer's heart sank. Daniel had been the leader of a criminal ring she had once been involved with. She had thought he was dead, that he had disappeared years ago, but it seemed he had resurfaced, and he was looking for her. Suddenly, everything made sense. The intruder, the severed finger, the blood. Daniel had sent someone to find her, to retrieve the money and evidence she had hidden away. And now, he wouldn't stop until he had it all. Jennifer slammed the chest shut, her mind racing. She needed to get out of there, to go somewhere safe. But before she could move, the sound of footsteps echoed through the empty facility. Her blood ran cold. Someone was coming. Grabbing the gun from the chest, Jennifer backed into the shadows, her breath shallow as the footsteps grew louder. The figure emerged from the darkness, a man, tall and gaunt, his hand heavily bandaged. The missing fingers, it was him, the intruder from her house. He grinned when he saw her. "You thought you could hide forever, didn't you, Jenny?" Jennifer raised the gun, her hands steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Stay back," she warned. The man took a step forward, his grin widening. "Daniel wants what's his, you know that. You can't run from him." But Jennifer had already decided. She wouldn't run. Not anymore. With a swift motion, she fired. The man crumpled to the ground, his smile fading as his body hit the cold concrete. Jennifer stood over him, her chest heaving as the weight of everything finally crashed down on her. She had escaped before, but now there was no going back. The secrets, the past, it was all behind her now. And there was only one thing left to do. She would finish what she had started. As the echoes of the gunshot faded, Jennifer knew one thing for sure. She was free. The end.